Hello geometry students. Today we're going to start our lesson on similar right triangles. Now this can be a little complex, so we're going to break it into 2 different days and split the lesson in 2. So once again, our topic for the day is similar right triangles. Remember what it means to be similar. Similar means that sides are proportionate and angles are congruent. We learned a method for proving triangles similar. Angle, angle. So in order for our work to work today, we need to have 2 angles in each triangle the same. And so that's what we'll take a look at. Also, a right triangle means we have to have a right angle. And so let's draw a right triangle, please. Okay. And we're going to label this top angle as A, the rightmost angle as B, and C is always reserved for our right angle when we're working with right triangles. Now that's only one right triangle. But what we need to do is we need to go from C and create a perpendicular to the other side. That's called an altitude. Okay, so that forms a right angle there as well. How many triangles do you see now? Hopefully you see 3 triangles. The overall large one that we started with, this medium-sized triangle, and then this small triangle here. Let's add another letter to this point so we can talk about it. That's point D, let's say. All right. So let's take a look. Let's try to split this into the 3 triangles that it's made up of. So the large triangle first, the largest. That was this one. And it had labels of A, B, and C. Now I want to draw the other triangles orientated the same way as this largest triangle. So let's think about this medium triangle next. The right angle is here, this is the shortest side, this is the longest side. So if I'm going to draw it similarly to the first or largest triangle, so our medium triangle, we need to identify the letters that correspond to it. Well, this right angle is by angle D this time. And then I have angle B comes off of the longer side, and angle by C comes from the top. Now realize this angle is the same as this angle. These 2 triangles are similar because of their right angles and the reflexive angle B. And so that means that their sides are proportionate. Short side matches with short side, medium with medium, longest side with the longest side. Let's take a look at our smallest triangle. Our smallest triangle, and I don't want to draw it too small here, right angle, so right here first of all, is the smallest triangle. Our right angle is by D. To get to the shortest side, we go to angle A. So the shortest side, we go to angle A. And that leaves C then for our other angle. I'll pause here in case if you haven't jotted this down yet. Okay, just like we talked about these first 2 triangles, we must talk about these other triangles. Well, This one doesn't look like the C's are the same, and if we think about it, here and here, those don't have to be the same, and in most situations they would not be. The only situation where they would be is if we had an isosceles right triangle. However, we don't, and we don't know it for sure, so we can't assume that C's are the same. But let's see what angles we could talk about. B was the same in two triangles. Looking at this one, we know that A is the same, so this A here has to match this one. Well, then these two triangles are similar because of angle, angle, the right angle and angle A, right angle and angle A. And so then, if I know these two are similar, but this one is similar to here, it's kind of like the transitive property. Then this one must be similar to this one. And so all three triangles are similar to each other. So let's set up a similarity statement. If I have triangle ABC is similar to triangle CBD, following the same order from A to B to C, C to B to D, and then for the third triangle, triangle A to C to D. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how we could solve with these. The key for today's work is draw out the different triangles to help us find the missing pieces. So let's do an example. All right, so here's my right triangle. ABC, or whatever letters you choose, but let's use ABC so we can kind of match it to this one. And then we'll draw out other three smaller triangles, labeling what we know. All right, we'll split this altitude in here. We'll call that D. We know that the whole thing from A to C is 6 in length. From C to B, or B to C, no matter how you look at it, is 8. And then the overall from A to B is 10. Let's start by finding out from A to D. We'll call that X. Let's also try to find from B to D. Let's call that Y. And then from C to D, the altitude. And we'll call that Z. Okay, so the easiest thing for us to do right now is to draw this out. So our big triangle had sides of 6, 8, and 10. And that was ABC. Whoops, my makeshift stand collapsed. All right, try this again. Our medium triangle is our CBD. In C to B to D, we know that C to B is 8. C to D, we don't know, we're going to call it Z. And B to D, we have labeled as Y. Then our smallest triangle, or triangle ADC, we have from A to C, or the hypotenuse, labeled as 6. From A to D, we don't know. It's labeled X though. And then from C to D, that's labeled Z. So we need to look at what can we set up as a proportion. Let's first try to solve for X. X is in the smallest triangle. Which triangle do we have the most information about? That's right, the largest one. We have all of the sides marked here, so we should probably use this largest triangle to help us figure out values in these. All right, so if we know that we need x, well, x matches up with which side in this one? 6 it is. So I would write x over 6 equals, so if x matches up with 6, well, I know this side is 6, and it matches up with the 10. So 6 over 10. And then we have 10x equals 36, leading to x equaling 3.6 when I divide. The next one I need to solve for, or let's try solving for, let's go in order, is y. Well, once again, I have two sides matching up here, and these two sides. And so what we need to do is set up our proportion using the first triangle because we have the most information about it. And so if I have 8 over 10, that matches up with y over 8. So I get 8 times 8 is 64 equals 10 times y. Divide by 10, we get that y equals 6.4. Now z we could do a variety of ways. Let's start with our most basic. Z's in this triangle, I know the 8 over 10, I know the z over 6. Or I could do 6 over 10, z over 8. It would still work out. And so if we have 6 over 10, using the small triangle since we're under that one, 6 over 10 is z over 8. 6 times 8 is 48, 10z, divide, and we get z is 4.8. And so what we need to do is we need to draw out our triangles and see how they match up. Let's get another sheet of paper. I want to go over one last example with you. And that's this one here. If I have a right triangle and the hypotenuse, the slanted side, is split by the altitude with measures of 4 and 9, how tall is this altitude? And that's all we know about our triangle. Well, we should still draw them out so we can think about which pieces correspond and match up. In the biggest triangle, so in the large one, we have a side of 13. Nothing else is marked. That's not going to be helpful to us. We need to have at least 2 sides to work with. We only have 1. We're not going to use this largest triangle. Let's look at our medium triangle. Our medium triangle has a long side at the right angle of 9. The short side meeting at the right angle is x. Hypotenuse, we don't have a value for, but that's okay. We need to have 2 things marked, and we do. Looking at our smallest triangle, we have that the shortest side is 4, the longest side is x. Once again, we're in luck. We have 2 sides marked. And then we can set up our proportion. And remember, there's a variety of ways to do this. We could say x over 4, 9 over x over 9, 4 over x. Lots of possibilities. So if I have x over 4 equals 9 over x. 4 times 9 is 36. X times x, as most of you put on your quiz, is not 2x. X times x, x squared. And so then to undo the square, we square root, and we get that x is 6. Now realize when we have x squared, and this will occur in some of your problems, and if this number isn't a perfect square, like 1, 4, 9, 25, skipping 16 there, 16, 25, 36, 49, and so on, if it's not a perfect square, you're going to have a decimal answer when you type it in on the calculator. Or you could just leave it as square root of something, and that's okay too.